Narcissistic supply refers to a Freudian concept of an unconscious mechanism in a person who needs constant affirmation, attention and admiration. Gaining attention from others helps an insecure person enhance his or her low self-esteem. Psychoanalyst Heinz Kohut said the ongoing supply is an unconscious psychological defense that keeps the narcissistic person from fragmenting, falling apart and dropping into depression. In 1938, psychoanalyst Otto Fenichel described the concept as being when a narcissistic individual requires a supply from the environment in the same way as the infant requires an external supply of food. It is that overly needy quality that makes some people challenging to be around. We all have some bit of selfishness in us, otherwise we wouldn't survive. It is a matter of what degree, how much and in what areas. Narcissistic traits exist on a continuum in people, with most of us having some minor ones, while people with the narcissistic personality disorder have many. People who have sociopathic behaviors are further out on the spectrum on getting their needs met at the expense of other people. It helps us all to learn about the dynamics of selfishness and the many forms it takes. See my articles on narcissism on my website www.angrysouth.com for a better understanding of the full disorder, as it helps to understand this basic personality dynamic. The fix for a needy ego is constant attention, praise and gifts from others. When their vulnerability is threatened by a threat to their self-esteem, they need some reassurance, admiration or recognition in order to shore up that fragile sense of self. This is an unconscious defense mechanism of denial, or as spy novel writer John le Carre would say, that they have a system of self-deception in place. They love the sound of their own voice and relish their own ideas to the exclusion of others. They believe that the minutiae details of their life are interesting to others. They use talking about what they are interested in as a way to maintain power. Remember that some of these people can be attractive, charming and exciting to be around, at least at first, until you catch on to their shallowness. When feeling bad, anxious or depressed, the needy narcissistic person requires that he or she be filled up with the attention of others. The need for the supply can become more heightened during a crisis. I see it as the person has a hole in the soul that constantly drains out any new supply that comes in. No matter how much you gave them yesterday, they can never be filled. They have amnesia for what has already been received and are in a "but what are you giving me right now?" mode. Oh yes, this is entitlement, and it takes many forms. That which needs filling up must have a filler-upper, and that is where people with codependency traits come in. Takers need givers. They choose partners and friends who will give readily to them without question or complaint. Narcissistic suppliers then are those people who feed the entitlement needs of the needy person. When giving is out of control at the expense to the self, we call this codependency. We've all seen this neediness in a person who must be the center of attention all of the time. I call them monologue talkers, as they don't allow other people to take their turn in a conversation. It is always about them, and they have endless problems that they must talk about. The role of others is to be the big ear and give unconditional support. One woman who had been talking about herself for 5 minutes objected when her friend broke in to share something about her life and turned the conversation back to herself and actually said, "Wait a minute, this is about me." Needy narcissists become hypersensitive when others try to balance the give and take. They have never learned about turn-taking. Healthy communication is a back-and-forth endeavor, like playing catch with a ball. My turn, your turn, a skill that most children learn in kindergarten or before. Needy narcissists choose their friends for what they can do for them. They definitely are users, not user-friendly. They understand how to exploit and manipulate codependent people's needs, the need to be the listener, the need to give to others to feel good, and beliefs of being unworthy of being on the receiving end. Friendships with narcissistic people are often short-lived, often as little as 4 months, as the new friend becomes gradually aware of the superficiality and one-sidedness of the relationship and opt out, moving on to greener pastures. In other cases, threatening to leave a person who requires a constant supply to their ego needs can bring out rageful vindictiveness. Femfree.com describes narcissistic rage on her website as, at the end of a relationship, the narcissist faces the potential exposure of his abusive behavior. Your leaving and loss of expected narcissistic supply, ensuing divorce, and financial repercussions, can result in narcissistic injury and subsequent narcissistic rage. His targets find themselves on the receiving end of the narcissist's relentless abuse, smear campaign, endless legal battles and other creative cruelties. This narcissistic rage may be, in fact, much worse than what you experienced within the relationship. Victims may have experienced severe physical or psychological abuse. That abuse, of course, is hidden behind closed doors. Seldom is the proof for witnesses. Disruption of the supply can bring about violence. Femfree.com quotes Ernest Wolf, "Narcissistic rage is a horse of a different color. Sometimes conditions occur which make a person feel totally helpless and powerless. This is an unbearable experience and results in that individual's unlimited rage to destroy any opponent, anyone who is not for me is against me, destroy the world, etc. Unfortunately, this narcissistic rage does not disappear when the helplessness or powerlessness have disappeared. Rather, this type of rage goes on, and on and only very gradually sort of wears itself out." See Ernest Wolf at selfpsychology.com web link. People with selfish traits often come from parents, religions or ethnic groups that have a better than attitude. As in, I'm better than you because I'm special. They have disdain for others, looking down their noses on those that they see as being different and therefore less than themselves. Once the "I'm superior" decision is made, the next assumptions is made: I have the right to treat you badly because I can. Dividing people into different categories of worthiness of better than and worse than is the concept of racism based on narcissism that is displayed so brilliantly in Catherine Stockett's book made into the movie The Help, which won the Screen Actors Guild Award for Best Picture. It takes two people for needy narcissism to continue. If you give too much, then you are contributing to the problem. Perhaps the unholy need for others to give their time and attention, which is called codependency when it happens too much, is a defense against knowing the truth about the neediness within. As long as the unconscious you owe me keeps the person from understanding how needy they truly are, perhaps the need for narcissistic supply keeps the deeply hidden shame at bay. Breaking into your need to obtain narcissistic supply. What can you do about the narcissistic supply selfish trait in yourself? Be glad that you flushed this defense mechanism out to be challenged. Awareness of what is going on is the first step to changing a pattern. Observe yourself to watch how you use others and allow yourself to be used. I've been lovingly observing and challenging both my selfish and codependent behaviors for years and have become a better person for it. Of course, I would have these patterns coming from the two families I had. My ongoing solution is to be aware of my unhealthy patterns of being needy, entitlement, and also the rush to give too much to others and interrupt them. Both sides of the coin, giving too much or taking too much, are remnants of family generational patterns. As George Bernard Shaw said, if you cannot get rid of the family skeleton, you may as well make it dance. So my dance becomes to bring my shadow parts learned from my family to the surface, including those narcissistic traits. I watch my need for attention and to share the unnecessary, minute details of my life and challenge the needs without making myself bad or judging it. I watch my neediness and do an energy psychology technique on it when this insecurity demand comes up. I challenge my errors in thinking which support my using others for my needs. I keep a strong monitor on myself to interrupt and challenge any entitlement thinking. Releasing beliefs regarding transgressing others' boundaries. Here are some ways of feeling and acting that contribute to the inability to hear other people's needs. This is your chance to change how you treat others to become a better person. Choose an energy psychology technique such as the Emotional Freedom Technique or the 5-Element Meridian Release Technique available on this website to apply to each of these beliefs that give you the bigger share. This exercise is from my book, Your Quick Anger Makeover, plus 20 other cutting-edge techniques to release anger. Even though add Anisha here, I forgive myself and choose to become a better person and break this selfish behavior. I don't have to listen to _'s needs or acknowledge his pain because I get to have the majority of the attention in my relationships because I need to talk. I get angry when I don't get my way and let others know it. I have a needy part inside that seeks attention. I've considered it ridiculous to listen to _'s point of view. I've ridiculed _'s feelings and requests and have been mean and cruel. I dismissed complaints about my uncaring behavior. I become infuriated when others want something I don't approve of. I feel satisfied when I ride others to get them to do what I want. I enjoy humiliating like to mess with his head because I think it is fun. I feel guilty for what I've done to which was I feel irritable and think it's okay to express rage when something goes wrong. I feel better venting my anger and ignore that others feel worse or traumatized. When I feel overwhelmed and threatened, I say things I don't mean. I've overlooked the obvious source of my problems in my hurry to blame others. I've been stubborn and inflexible about and allow myself to blow up over small things. I'm embarrassed and ashamed of my lack of control when I'm angry. My rage typically makes me feel powerful as others back down. I'm just like my when it comes to hurting others with ugly words. I became a bully and felt good about it just like did to me. I'm passing a generational pattern of aggressive behavior down to my children. I'm ashamed and disgusted with myself because I've trampled on the needs of others. I'm embarrassed by my callous behavior to and feel sad and disappointed in myself. There is a belief from philosophers such as Sartre and Hegel that what you do, you become. Our behaviors define us in the way that we see and react to the world. But I have a different take on this. What you've done, you can overcome. Beliefs are not carved in stone. Errors in thinking can be altered to make our lives more caring and loving. Erroneous beliefs should be challenged. In healthy relationships, each person takes responsibility for his own thoughts, feelings and actions. So ask yourself, are you getting what you want out of life in terms of living in fair and balanced relationships? Learning about emotional arousal and how to regulate it is a lifelong curriculum. You will be as happy as you are able to know and set appropriate boundaries and listen to those appropriate boundaries expressed by others. Healthy relationships are about creating and maintaining healthy boundaries. Occasionally I have to put a boundary on someone who takes more than their fair share from me, but I also watch to see if I'm talking too much or asking too much. It's all human behavior learned in our families, and as learned behavior, taking or giving too much can become unlearned. The goal for healthy relationships is equal give and take. Balance. Your turn. My turn. Conscious living is being aware of what you are doing and striving to come from a place of fairness and kindness. Observe how you balance the give and take between those around you. Your turn, my turn is a fundamental truth from those first times as a toddler when you learn to share that contributes to a satisfying, harmonious life. The trading of ego gratification is the basis of most human relations, which uninformed humans call love and unity. A person who you think is the nicest, kindest, most loyal person on earth will abandon you instantly when 1. You hurt his ego. 2. Cease to feed his ego. 3. Cease to serve his ego as much as someone else. Vernon Howard. Emotional manipulation penetrates almost every disorder and complicates many lives and relationships. People who use emotional manipulation hide beneath the mask of love, concern, dedication and friendship, while using guilt, button pushing, subtle anger and many types of covert ploys to keep their victims in place, getting their victims to do what they want. James Fogarty. Nada is that gut feeling that you get when you notice that someone is doing something to manipulate you or engage in selfish behavior. It is that narcissistic radar that you have when someone is more interested in themselves than in you or in making the relationship fair. Nada is that visceral reaction you get when the hackles go up on your neck because someone is trying to take advantage of you or pull the wool over your eyes. It's that internal, unconscious device that warns you to watch out. Unfortunately, if you have grown up with a selfish parent, you might have been sensitized to the condition and see it as normal. The more children are exposed to narcissism, the more they think it's normal. The more they think giving up their own needs to meet someone else's is the norm, the more likely they are to engage in it. At some point in their life, they begin to understand that other families act in healthier ways. The stirrings of Nada start at this time. It may take years to figure out that fairness means getting the balance between other people's needs and your own. To have a healthy life, develop your Nada. Naive or gullible thinking can be a detriment to your well-being. If you were raised with narcissistic parents or a sibling, you may have your Nada turned off, or conversely you may be highly perceptive of others' selfish tendencies. When a narcissistic person comes into my environment, I get an automatic reaction which warns me to watch out. My Nada recognizes someone else's smarmy attitude long before my conscious mind figures it out. My Nada is set pretty high. But then I was partially raised with someone in my family who did great harm to me, and I've studied and written about narcissism for years. One key to discovering how low or high your Nada is set is to understand how you were duty trained. You may have been trained to meet the needs of someone else. Giving in to others at the expense of your own self is called codependency. Being expected to meet the needs of a parent is incompatible with your becoming an independent person in your own right. Finish this sentence. Instead of become an autonomous person as a child, my duty was to. If you were taught that it is your job to jump right in and solve another person's problem at an inconvenience to yourself, people with narcissistic behavior will seek you out. Observe your automatic yes reaction to another person's expectation of you. On a visceral level, feel your body starting to shudder while your mind may shift into a no, what do you need? I can help you mode. On an emotional level, observe how you kick into helping someone else just because it's expected of you. Your automatic reactions can happen even if they don't ask. Their entitlement attitude is enough for you to go on dumb automatic pilot. So here are some clues that should send your nada into high gear humming and warning you that you are not in a relationship of equals. You know you're dealing with narcissistic behavior if needy narcissists love an audience and that's your role. Some are charming, funny and the life of the party. Your function in their life is to listen to whatever they have to say for as long as they want to talk. Your job is to give them applause, admiration or reassurance. If you don't, they might get anxious and fish for compliments. Controlling narcissists make you feel guilty much of the time and you don't know why. It's probably their attitude of I do what I want and if it inconveniences you, tough. Or even I get my way and don't even notice if you are inconvenienced because you don't matter. So no wonder that you feel uneasy when around them. You may not even notice you feel bad inside. Your nada has become almost non-existent. Of course you may have been so programmed by them or others since childhood that you don't even know that there are other ways to feel. Question your need to feel extra guilty. It's just a feeling and if you have too much of it that harms your life, you can work to release it. They have a don't question me rule. Do as I say. Some have a jump to it right now rule. You get the glare, the mean look or the long-suffering sigh of look what I have to put up with if you don't move immediately to do what they want. If additionally they have perfectionistic tendencies, nothing you do will please them. Your work will not be up to their standards and they will criticize and nitpick at you. Defensive narcissists can't stand criticism and get their hackles up when corrected when they've done something wrong. They become angry to get you to stop calling them on their stuff. They pick fights with you if you don't agree with what they say. They are willing to yell louder, distort facts to serve their purpose and fight dirty. You can't win an argument with someone who knows that they are always right. Remember, you don't have to attend every argument that you are invited to. You don't have to participate in conflict with people who do not listen to what you are saying and who try to convince you that you are wrong. Some people get high on fighting and dominating others. Some are thin-skinned and get upset over petty things that others would ignore. They will hold you hostage and try to make you feel guilty by getting upset often if you let them. One man told me that he liked to keep people off balance because it helped him get what he wanted. They cannot say I'm sorry or admit they are wrong. If pushed to apologize, they yell I'm sorry. Which is not an apology but an act of frustration and anger. Their lack of true remorse shows that they did not understand or care how they have hurt you. Denial is the narcissist's middle name. No, that's wrong. It's their first name but of course they deny it. The denial and lying functions so they will feel better in the moment. Ignoring or disagreeing with the criticism gets them out of a hot spot so they don't have to take responsibility to change. They are very protective of their faults and weaknesses and try to hide them from others. To those who have their nada turned on high, their defenses are as plain as a glaring wart on their nose. They steal your ideas and take credit for your work. They hint or ask outright for what you have. They believe in the toddler's rule of if it is yours, it is mine. One woman told me that she could never wear something new when she went to visit her mother as her mother would demand to have it and she felt obligated to give it to her to keep the peace. They have expectations that you will go along with what they want, such as you picking up the check or they're taking the largest piece of the pie. I know a woman who expects everyone who goes out to lunch with her to pick up the check. They are manipulative and even proud of their ways to get others to give them things. One woman said, I can get a man to buy me a new pair of expensive shoes on the first date and I don't even have to put out. They know how to hint, hold back, ask outright and nag to get their way. One teenager I had just met as a client asked me for $20. When I said no, he shrugged and said, sometimes it works. I always ask new people for money. He wasn't even aware how inappropriate it was and his mother didn't correct him. They expect you to read their minds and can get angry with you if you get it wrong. One individual insisted that people read his mind and got angry when they could not anticipate his needs and then gave the silent treatment. He could not understand why his wife left him. It's sad when a person is so defended against knowing their own character defects that they lose their marriage. The see how good I am narcissists have an extraordinary need to be perceived as special, wonderful and being a good person and will remind us of this often. It is part of the fantasy that they live even while doing things that are hurtful. Any achievement is magnified and talked about repeatedly. I challenged a man who told me 5 times in an hour about how good he was as a boss and father, telling him that normal people don't have to announce their goodness. Entitled narcissists demand special treatment. Other people's rules don't apply to them because deep down they think they are special. This distorted thinking can run from not buying a ticket to get into an event and then bragging about it to stealing the retirement funds of others. They believe they have the right to do whatever pleases them without personal cost. They feel good for a moment and their self-esteem increases when pulling something over on someone. Of course it is false self-esteem, but their brain gets a boost in dopamine just the same. Their being hooked on getting what they want activates the same chemicals in the brain that alcohol and drugs do. Discounting narcissists can't hear about your pain or suffering, as in their deluded mind, their own pain is always worse. If you mention a complaint, they don't ask you to elaborate but quickly turn the conversation back to themselves. Okay, enough about you, now let me tell you about me. Victim narcissists want you to know how bad they have it. If you mention something bad that happened to you, they have to one-up you by telling a bigger story of how their bad thing was worse than yours. If you have a headache or bad hair day, they have no empathy for you and tell you how they had it much worse. Their suffering can go into the victim of all times mode. Overheard at the gym, a young man, shaken and white-faced, was trying to tell about his car being rear-ended on the freeway and the gruesome accident scene he had witnessed. An attractive woman cut him off immediately and went into a 5-minute OMG dialogue of how she was late for work. The drama kings and queens thrive on relating their personal crises. If you have something bad happen to you, they turn it around to make it about them. For example, on learning that his wife had cancer, a doctor went into great length to tell how it would affect his life. A couple had been in a car accident where he broke his leg, back and several ribs and had a concussion. She broke her pinky finger and complained loud and long at a party. He, being a secure person, was quiet about his injuries, not having the need to be the center of attention. She didn't notice how people at the party looked at her with surprise and pity as she dramatized her injury. One form of narcissism is seen in borderline personality disorder. Read Stop Walking on Eggshells, Taking Your Life Back When Someone You Care About Has Borderline Personality Disorder by Paul Mason and Randy Kreger. Reading about the over-emotional, narcissistic traits in borderline personality disorder in general will help you understand the manipulative quality some people have no matter what their diagnosis. So back to you. And on and on. You know them. You've lived with them. You've tolerated them. You were raised with unrealistic expectations. But have you ever sat down and made a list of these unrealistic expectations? Part of your recovery is learning what you are still susceptible to. Are you still catering to certain people? Check your NADA. Start noticing what your body does when you feel uncomfortable with someone's behavior. Do you start to feel depleted, like your energy has been sucked out of your body? Do your shoulders tense? Do you get a sick feeling in your stomach? Does the hair on your arms rise? Do you find yourself starting to back away ever so slightly? Learn to pick up on these body cues. Learn your own unique NADA signals. Get past the way you have been brainwashed. Get over your destructive optimism, that pseudo-hope that the person will change. This is magical thinking, your own living in a fantasy world where others in the world do what you want them to do. Go beyond your ego trap thinking, if only. Put a strong hold on the ideas that flit through your mind, fantasizing that he or she will change or stop doing something hurtful. Embrace reality. It is where you live that real world, what's really there, not what your deluded ego tells you. Ask yourself what you have done to enable a selfish person to act badly. What limits and boundaries do you need to set? Make this your new mantra. Do not see my being kind to you as my being weak. For I have boundaries. I know who I am and how I want to be treated. I will be fair with you and I expect fairness in return. I know when and how to stand up for myself. I stand for everyone, being responsible and kind with others. It's consumer beware when letting new friends into your life. Put a flashing sign on your forehead. No narcissistic people, no psychopaths need apply. Give but don't allow yourself to be used. Love but don't allow yourself to be abused. Trust but don't be naive. Listen to others but don't lose your own voice. Seen on Facebook. Our interactions with others are like business contracts. We agree what we will talk about, do, pay for, give up and not stand for. You may think you are in a locked contract with a parent because it was written when you were small. You may have gotten an unfair contract with a new friend because you didn't understand how their laws of give and take really work and you agreed to be the giver. True friends value you for who you are and not what you do for them. The bottom line is people will treat you the way that you let them. You train them through setting an unspoken contract of what is allowed in the relationship. Take stock of what is going on between you and another person where you always seem to get the short end of the stick. Take notes. Write some things down that seem unfair because the mind forgets many things of this nature. Be specific as to what you would like in terms of fairness. Taking turns. What you learned in kindergarten is a good start. Your turn. My turn. Etc. Life is about continual learning. Now that you are more aware of how you've been taken advantage of, you can rewrite old out-of-kilter contracts. You can rewrite them for fairness and equality. Fairness for you and the other person. Getting it down on paper or the computer helps organize your mind. Think what things work in the relationship and what doesn't. Run your ideas by a trusted friend if you're not sure. Reality checks with wise people are helpful. Then you present your ideas to the other person. One at a time or hit them with the whole list at once. Leave if they become argumentative or abusive. Ask them to consider what you have asked and get back to you when things are calmer. The insecure person may not like what you write and may resist. Some may get angry and blow up to try to shut you down. Some will feel so insulted that they cut you out of their life. It happens all the time, and new contract writers who are serious about becoming mentally healthy say, their anger or dropping the relationship was a consequence of my asking for fairness. Is that fair? Or is their behavior a reflection of who they are as a person? One strategy is to give your new way of interacting with them some time and see if they come around. Don't apologize for setting good boundaries. Good boundaries are fair for both parties. Narcissistic people of course will not see them as fair. Fair to them means they get it their way. You don't have to keep saying, "I'm sorry" when you speak up for your needs. Stop your "so sorry" scenarios. Save your sorries for when you truly hurt others. Stop apologizing for asking others to be fair. You have the right to be safe and be treated with respect. The world needs more people speaking out for fairness. You can expect that a self-involved person with whom you set strong boundaries might try to go back to their old ways of treating you. It's human nature to try to hold on to the advantages for oneself. And people who are used to getting their way are not going to roll over and give up advantages easily. But for you, it's a test. A selfish person will test to see if you really mean it or not. After all, why should they stop doing something that has worked for them for years? So you will have to shore up your boundaries, say what does and doesn't work for you anymore, and leave if necessary to show that you are serious about the changes for fairness in the relationship. It is up to you to pass that test they give you. The name of their test is on how mean you are. You inconvenienced me. Did you really mean it? What will your answer be? Figure out the worst-case scenario in how they will react when you insist on fair and equal treatment in the relationship and prepare to deal with it. What will your answer be when they accuse you of changing? The hurt accusation of changed. I hope it will be dang right. I've changed, and for the better. I've learned to stand up for myself and not give myself away to others. It's about time. And I'm asking you to look at some of your behavior also. There are varying degrees and types of narcissistic defenses and behaviors. Some are more self-centered than others. Some are more toxic than others. Learn to spot them and make a conscious decision when you let a new person into your life. Be aware when a relative or long-time friend expects more than their fair share. Playing their game only gives you a more chaotic life. Change the contract from the old contract to a new one. The old contract was signed by blood before you were born. You were the hidden recipient of your parents' pathology. The old contract was written by the narcissistic parent of your past, where you were the little child who had to go along with their needs. The new contract is that as an adult, you meet your own needs and theirs when it is appropriate. Write out the beliefs, the expectations, the rewards and the punishments that shaped your personality. This is the dysfunctional contract you grew up with, the hurtful family scripts, the unspoken of elephants under the rugs, the needs of others that you were expected to fulfill. Get it all down. See it for what it is. Their possessiveness or their neglect, their corrosive needs for compliance. Your boundaries that were violated. How you were taught to agree and not rock the boat. How you learned to feel bad if you upset others. How you had to go along with things you knew were wrong or suffer the consequences of an upset, irrational parent. Write your contract down. Spell out your boundaries in exact terms. For example, you may text me only once a day. Of course they will try to con you saying, "Oh, I didn't know that you meant." Of course he or she did. Just smile sweetly and say, "Well, you know it now." Write down their defenses when threatened. The cold shoulder, the cut-off, the abandonment, the anger, rage, blaming, name-calling. Get ready for it. Prepare yourself for it. Get it all down, not to blame, to understand from whence you came and what you were programmed to be for the whims and needs of someone else. My pledge. I call my self-esteem back. I claim my energy back. I reclaim all that was denied me or taken from me. I am aware of what is being asked of me and make a conscious decision as to whether it is in my best interests or not. I'm no longer willing to be depleted by someone who sucks my energy. I refuse to think badly of myself just because someone else felt bad about his or herself and put that on me. I keep my nada scan, that intuitive knowing that pops up when someone is trying to scam you or push past your boundaries. I say, wait a minute, that's not fair. Look at what you are doing. Reset your limits when your boundaries are trashed. Expect it from them and prepare for it. Expect them to come up with examples of how they were hurt by you. Check it out by sitting with the idea. There may be some truth in it. If so, apologize and tell them that it's a new ball game from now on. Say, I know who I am and how I want to be treated from now on. I know when and how to stand up for myself. I will be fair with you. I expect fairness in return. Do you agree to this? You cannot count on someone else to respect your feelings. You must respect your own feelings as messengers that are trying to tell you something. When someone is disrespectful and demeaning of you, your choice is to endure abuse, challenge it or walk away. The bottom line is to not let people into the inner circle of your heart that are not good to you. Watch out for the ones who are not good for you. If in doubt, ask a trustworthy friend. Choosing healthy friends and partners. In healthy relationships, no one gets filled up, no one gets drained. There can be an exchange of energy but no one becomes exhausted. Everyone feels safe. So don't look for someone with whom you feel great excitement or familiarity. That just may be your old dysfunctional family dynamics kicking back in. Look for someone who is healthy enough so that they don't need to take your energy from you. Look for someone with whom your energy feels safe. If you continue to have trouble attracting difficult people into your life, turn up your nada. Put your setting on the highest notch if you've been too trusting and naive. Your life is your own to be lived the way that you choose. Call them on what they are doing. You're allowed to do what is right for you and say what doesn't work for you anymore. And the more that you put up with their behavior, you harm them at a deep level. Not everyone is your friend. Some are posers. They pose as your friend as long as you give in to their selfish needs. Don't waste your time with the wrong people. Maya Angelou said, when people show you who they are, believe them the first time. Get it? Break through your own denial. Stop telling yourself that it isn't that bad and you can handle them when you know down deep that you can't. Keep your nada on high and spot 'em and head 'em off at the pass. You probably have enough selfish people in your life already. True friends have your back. They are there for you as you are there for them. Give and take. Fair.